Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest. Absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old-timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs.
Hey y'all, welcome to today's show. I tell you, I'm looking forward to this one because we're going to discuss some of my favorite plants. Actually, the herb is one of my favorites. It's one that just grows wild in my backyard. The edible wild plant, the foraging plant for spring, is absolutely like tops for me. Okay, ramps, as you know, my favorite wild vegetable is ramps, but that was by no means the first wild food I learned to eat. The first wild food I learned to eat was, well, actually, I'm not sure. I remember, as a kid eating sheep sorrel, chewing it, enjoying the sourness of the stems of what we called sourweed, certainly, wild mustard, dandelions, all that. I ate as a kid. My mom kept a bottle of Ipecac nearby because thanks to my grandfather's way of growing things, I had decided, like by the age of 3, that everything growing in the yard was edible. He planted edible landscaping. He was a real permaculture guy before there was a name for it. So I ate everything, and a lot of times I'd eat poisonous stuff, and she had to induce vomiting. So I can't tell you exactly what the first wild food was that I ate, and maybe a wild strawberry, but probably not. Probably sourweed, sheep sorrel, probably. Yeah. Of course, it could have been crab apples. He had, crab apples on the property because he liked to make ciders and wines and such. And yeah, I was crazy about those crab apples. They were so sour and tart, I could barely stand them. But I would climb the tree as a little kid and get those crab apples. But I do know without a doubt, one thing I've been eating as long as my memory goes back is wild blackberries, or they're actually black raspberries. They're called brambles. They go by many names. What we know as a blackberry in America is actually a black raspberry. Raspberries are far less common in North Carolina. I think blackberries grow probably, they're abundant in the mountains. It's really one of the most common things you will run into in the mountains. But yeah, they grow at least up to the coastal plain. The swamps of Robinson and Bladen County, where I spent at least half my childhood, there are a lot of blackberries. The Uwaris, most people outside of North Carolina have never heard of the Uwharrie Mountains. I think, let me see if I can do this from memory. Uwharrie, probably, quite possibly, the oldest mountain range on the face of the earth. This mountain range apparently was once as tall as the tallest mountains on earth. We're talking like Mount Everest, the Himalayas, and now are barely foothills. Mora Mountain is the highest peak. My grandfather built the picnic area, observation deck area up there. Nearby you have, there were Native American settlements. It was a big area for mining a certain rock that was used for arrowheads and knives. It can be very sharp and hard. It's really neat. Gosh, what's the name of that? Yeah, the word coming to mind is probably not it, but it was huge center of trade 1,000 years ago, more, 5,000, probably about 10,000 years ago, actually. These are prehistoric, what do you call them, Mesoamericans, I don't know, that were mining this area for this specific stone, and it's been found in California. It's been found in South America. I mean, they were very, Canada. There were trade routes from this little area in what's now Montgomery and Stanley and Randolph County, North Carolina. Anson falls in there. There were trade routes running throughout North and South America for this stone. There are also dinosaur bones. I mean, there are fossils. I mean, this is an old place. This is an area that started the American Gold Rush. The more gold in the U.S. Treasury, supposedly, if it's still there, came from North Carolina than just about anywhere until the Klondike rush of what, circa 1890 or so. I mean, gold and silver like you wouldn't believe, because this giant mountain range has been there for millions of years, and it's weathered down to like nothing. And honestly, if I ever get the chance to document the plant life in that area, I think it's going to shock the world, because literally it's the forgotten corner of North Carolina. Like, nobody knows about the Uaris. Some people go to Baden Lake or Tillery and go fishing. It's part of the Petey River. But areas like El Dorado, nobody knows about. El Dorado means city of gold. It's El Dorado, like what Cortez was looking for, but they pronounce it El Dorado. My word, this is some of the most beautiful and unique scenery I've ever encountered is in the Uwharrie mountain range. But I distinctly remember going up to Baden. Baden's a really unique little town. It's tiny. I don't think the population of Baden's more than about 120 people. Baden was actually a French settlement. I don't remember the name of the company. It was a French aluminum company, bought the entire town and had a large aluminum plant there that was taken over by Alcoa later on. They made a lot of the aluminum and such that was used in the airplanes and the bombs in World War II. I mean, one of the most significant historical towns for all of America, because literally without Baden, North Carolina, we would have lost to the Germans. I mean, we would have lost the World War. They made the metal, the aluminum, that was the airplane wings and the munitions and et cetera, et cetera. Really interesting history. The first townhouses in America. But anyway, they got a little lake there called Baden Lake. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the whole area is contaminated with aluminum. And frankly, I've met a lot of really crazy people from that area that probably have aluminum deposits in their brain. But that's an issue. For another show. And I may be totally wrong. I just can tell you I've met some real characters. I also met one of the coolest guys ever. Old man that owned an antique store up in Baden. Let me think if I can remember his name. I believe it was Coy. His first name was Coy. This was years ago. This was 10, 15 years ago or more. And he had the greatest antique store. I mean, old farm antiques and early American stuff. And really, I mean, through the 50s, I mean, like if you love A Christmas Story and Ralphie, I mean, he had Daisy BB guns. And of course, I was just, crazy about it. And I was hanging out up there. And we got to talking, and Mr. Coy said he used to play a little music. And, well, I'm a musician. And we started talking about Hank Williams. And he was like the biggest fan of Hank Williams. And he gave me, as senior, Hank Williams Sr., the real, Hank Williams, the greatest, the hillbilly Shakespeare, as they call him. And he loved Lefty Frizzell, Ernest Tubb. I mean, we talked music. The man was about 90, and I was about, 25, and maybe more like 20. And I mean, we sat there and we talked music for hours, to the point that his granddaughter that was helping out in the shop was ready to go home. I mean, we talked about Roy Acuff, and we talked about the Carter family and Bill Monroe, and really, really great man. And before I left, he gave me some Grand Ole Opry memorabilia from the 1940s. When he was a kid, he would get on the train and he would ride out to Nashville, Tennessee. He'd stay 2 or 3 nights. He'd go to the Opry. He'd go with some fellows that basically went out there to drink and have a good time. He just went for the music. So he said, in his late 80s, probably around 90, who knows what he was up to. But no, he really knew the music. And man, I mean, he was so kind and generous. I'm sure he's passed away years ago, but it's good to have that memory. Yeah, Mr. Coy, he was a really special person. But anyway, up there around Baden Lake, surrounded by blackberries, black raspberries officially, and my word, I gathered buckets of blackberries, and I mean, blackberry wine is like literally one of my favorite things on earth. Blackberry jam is literally one of my favorite things on earth, on a biscuit with some made with lard and buttermilk. That is probably the greatest culinary invention of America, is a buttermilk and lard and butter biscuit with blackberry jam. Oh man. Blackberry pies. I mean, I have literally eaten my weight probably 50 times over in blackberries. I used to go out as a teenager in the mountains, 14, 15, and I'd be out gathering blackberries. And to the point that my dog, it was a Weimaraner, she learned that blackberries were edible. And this dog would pull her lips back, like she was snarling, because, blackberries, brambles are thorny, right? She would eat blackberries straight off the bush. She saw me eating them. She learned to do it, and she would stand there like grinning, eating blackberries with the juice running all over her beautiful silver face. I mean, Weimar's like the prettiest dog there is, and she'd be covered in blackberries about halfway up her body, because she learned that blackberries were edible because I was always eating them. And they're fantastic. But let's talk about blackberries from my book, The Spring Foraging Cookbook. The blackberries are also medicinal, really important medicinal plant. A lot of young mothers are told to drink blackberry or raspberry leaf tea. It actually tones the uterus. It can make delivery a little easier. I'm going to give the big caveat: be careful. Actually, one of the only miscarriages documented to have been caused by herbal medicine was a young woman, a first-time mother, who took the advice to drink a cup of blackberry tea a day to the extreme, and she decided to drink more than a gallon a day. Killed the child and nearly killed herself. That's just crazy. A lot of herbs can be quite dangerous and should not be used in medicinal amounts during pregnancy, especially anything in the mint family, and that includes oregano and basil. Plenty of pregnant women love their, basil and their spaghetti sauce on their pizza. It's not going to hurt you in a culinary dose. But when you're taking something that concentrated actually drinking more than a gallon of water a day, water plain, probably could have killed the child. But raspberry leaf tea is great, but just use some common sense. I mean, for Pete's sake, use some common sense. But we're talking. I was just talking about the berries. They're not there in the spring, obviously. Okay, you know what is there in the spring? It's the leaves, the tender leaves, and the shoots. The shoots are actually edible, and they're tangy. They're a little sour and tannic, slightly acidic, I guess I would say, a little citrusy. So, anything citrusy, I'm combining with fish or chicken or other game birds, and or I guess I should just say game birds. I love that lemony flavor, lemon pepper chicken. I mean, come on. I mean, it's as common as mud, and it's just delicious. I mean, really, You can absolutely use the shoots and leaves of raspberries and blackberries, any kind of brambles, and I think that includes loganberries. And I'd have to double check. I got a whole book on. Let me think. Lois Riati. Lois Riati wrote some of the best gardening books of the 70s and 80s. Another pioneer permaculture. She loved the lore, the old folklore around plants as much as I do. Highly recommend her books. She wrote Roses Love Garlic and whatever the follow up was that she was the one that taught people about companion planting, how you can plant certain strawberries love tomatoes. Was that it? I don't remember. And I may have that totally opposite. But you can plant certain plants together, and they help each other. They protect each other from insects, or they fertilize each other. She was the one that, yeah, Lois Riati really pioneered companion planting. I highly recommend her book. She probably wrote about a dozen books. One of them was all about brambles, blackberries, raspberries, loganberries, dewberries. That's a big one. Yeah, those are really good. And how to grow them well, and how to select them for your site. Which varieties work best in climates. She wrote one of my. Oh, she did a great book on growing nut trees like pecans and walnuts and all that. Probably my favorite was actually her book. I think it was Catfish Ponds and Lily Pads, where she really got into both fish and aquatic plant farming on a small acreage. But the two books she wrote on the lore of plants, the folklore, the like supposed magical properties and legends, oh, they're so good. They're just delightful. I'm a very conservative Christian. I'm a very Orthodox Catholic. I don't believe in any kind of superstition. But I love to read the legends of these plants, the way people thought of them 100 years ago or 500 years ago in England or Poland or Germany. I mean, it's just delightful. That's me. Some people might look at that stuff as a little kind of witchy or something. I don't know. To me, there's just like fun fairy tale legends. So, you kind of have to decide your own thing there. But her book on berries, again, it's Lois Riati, and she was a real character, is really good. All her books are really good. She was funny. She was quirky. She was eccentric. I put her with Ruth Stout. Ruth Stout, who did the No Work Garden, the Deep Mulch method, as probably the two greatest female garden writers, horticultural writers of the 20th century. They were brilliant. They were funny. They were engaging. I mean, Ruth Stout. She was Rex Stout's sister, who wrote the Nero Wolfe novels. She was, she was a genius. I mean, her IQ had to be in like at least the 160s. I mean, she was really cool and so funny and a Quaker. So, we probably would have argued about politics and religion, of course, but to have her as a neighbor, well, okay. Let me give a caveat. She was actually very big into naked gardening. So to have her as a neighbor, as an 80-year-old naked lady out in the yard, may not have been a good thing. But um, she was delightful. She wrote a book, If You Would Be Happy. I think it's probably the best secular, non-religious self-help book ever written. Seriously, I'd put it right up there with Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Actually, if you wanted to live a really happy, successful life, and religion wasn't an issue, which of course it is. If you had to read two secular books that would give you solid, useful, practical advice on being happy and interacting with other people and being successful in your business and making friends and getting along with family members and just really living a happy life. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I read, I think, at the age of 18, and it totally changed my life. I went from being painfully shy to this, this guy. I worked in politics. I worked in a lot of places where I get in front of thousands of people and give speeches and make them laugh. And that's all thanks to Dale Carnegie and, my mom's encouragement when I was younger. I was painfully shy as a kid. So yeah, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Ruth Stout, If You Would Be Happy. Brilliant. Those are brilliant books. But anyway, back to Brambles. I'm so glad, somebody sent me an email about 2 weeks ago. Said, I love your podcast. I especially like it when you go off on tangents and talk about things spontaneously that have nothing to do with the subject. Thank you for that, because, that is at least half my show. Trump gave a fantastic speech yesterday, by the way. He did the same thing, and it was brilliant. He said, he started talking about immigration. He said, we'll get back to this in a minute. I'm going to show you. It takes talent to do what I do. He then spent 20 minutes talking about other things and circled around and finished his thought. And yes, that is amazing. I remember one time, I think I was in Salisbury, North Carolina. No, well, it was either Salisbury or up around Yadkinville. Could have been Yadkinville. Anyway, I had a large audience, and I'm talking, and I'm giving my speech, and I lost the thread. I started talking about sunset, and I totally forget what I was talking about. And I mean, most people would have, people are actually more afraid of public speaking than they are poisonous snakes or flying. It doesn't make any sense to me. I absolutely blanked. And I just laughed about it and went on to another topic. And I'm telling you, had it not been for Dale Carnegie, and Rush Limbaugh, Neil Bortz, and the great G. Gordon Liddy, who really was a good mentor and friend to me, no way I could have done it. That shy kid, 5 years before that time, would have totally frozen and freaked out. Yeah. So definitely, especially if you have kids, get a copy of Dale Carnegie's book and Ruth Stout's book, If You Would Be Happy, and Louise Riotti's book. See, I can do it too. I can go back to the topic. But no, get those books. And Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. I think that and Walden, Thoreau, two biggest influences on my life outside of religious writing. Viktor Frankl, Jewish guy from Germany. I think he was from Germany. Anyway, fell under Nazism. His whole family was killed in a concentration camp. He survived. He became a psychiatrist, and he wrote about how we can't choose what happens to us in life, but we can choose how we respond. This man literally went through hell and chose to be a happy, productive person. I mean, imagine in our victim culture, that is the opposite of what we're taught. Yeah, that's the opposite of every episode of Oprah or Dr. Phil. Bull crap that has destroyed our culture. Donahue before them, we go down that road. Man's Search for Meaning will change your life. I'll throw one more out there that's probably going to be a little odd. You probably won't understand. But a huge influence on me was Jack Kerouac. The beatnik, beat writer. He was a pretty cool guy. He was actually pretty conservative, and he was a Catholic. But he kind of, I don't know, how would I put it? Taught me to kind of do my own thing in life without worrying about what other people thought. And would I be a writer without Jack Kerouac or J.D. Salinger or Herman Hesse? Another big influence, Herman Hesse. Probably not, because I've written 13 books, and at this point I've actually written 13 and a half books. I'll have another book out here in just a couple of months. I was told in English class that I couldn't write. I was told in journalism school that I couldn't be a journalist. In English class, it was an issue. I'm dyslexic and I misspell words. I have terrible handwriting, and it took me a long time to learn to type as well. But no, especially in journalism school, was told I had too much of an active voice. You're supposed to write as if you're in the third person, just like a cipher, a witness. But I would, well, everybody does it now. I mean, Fox News and such is entirely opinion, well, and MSNBC especially, entirely personality-driven opinion journalism, which is why I don't watch it. But yeah, I mean, as ironic as that may seem, I really was doing that before anyone other than Rush Limbaugh and William Buckley and the great P.J. O'Rourke, another huge influence on me, were doing it. And I was told I'd never succeed. And here I am. I've written 13 books. I was told that my sentences were not succinct. They ran on too long. They were compound sentences. Well, then I discovered Jack Kerouac, who wrote in a stream of consciousness style. Henry Miller, another. I mean, you would not think I would like Henry Miller. Henry Miller actually was a huge influence on my writing. Not the subjects, not the things he wrote about necessarily, but actually the way he wrote, the skill, the art of his writing was beautiful. Beyond all that, William Faulkner. Faulkner was the biggest literary influence on me. And, if you've listened to this show, my credo is essentially his words from, I think it was Absalom. The past is not dead. It's not even past. I live that. I do not see myself as in any way separate from the thousands of generations that have gone before me. I'm part of a narrative. I'm not the period on the end of a sentence. God willing, I won't be. I still hope to get married and have a family, so I won't be the period on the end of a really fascinating sentence. My ancestors include royalty and heroes of the American Revolution and the Crusades, and it would be an extreme tragedy if my lineage died with me. I mean, I'm related to everyone from King Richard Lionheart to T. Tiffy, the Jewish the Hebrew princess that's her father's mentioned in the Bible. I mean, it would be an extreme tragedy if my DNA is not passed on to another generation. But it's also entirely out of my hands. That's up to God. And a woman who I haven't met yet, if I ever do, who would actually fall for me, as strange and eccentric and difficult a person as I am, and I am. I'm masterful, demanding. I don't value the things that other people value. I value things that other people disvalue. I'm laughing all the time because I find just about everything funny. Not bad things, but I see the irony in just about everything that happens. And I unconventional, eccentric, but yes, unconventional. I don't live like other people. I don't think like other people, and I don't want to. I like to see life as a grand adventure and every meal as an event. So yeah, that makes me totally different than the average, 9 to 5, employed by someone else, grab a burger at McDonald's lifestyle of the average American, shop at Walmart. No, I don't want to shop at Walmart. I want something handmade by a craftsman. And it's usually going to be over 100 years old because people stop doing that. And I will fix it myself, and I'll refurbish it myself. But I want something that actually has integrity. And that integrity is really what dictates my entire life. I mean, that's the music I like, the books I read, the church I go to. It no counterfeits for me. No knockoffs. No settle for. Back to Jack Kerouac. Uh, he said famously, I believe it was in On the Road, his most famous book, the only ones for me in life are the mad ones. Mad to live, mad to love, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at once. Those who explode across the sky in spidery veins like fireworks, leaving everyone to say, aw. Is that arrogant? Yeah, it's arrogant. I enjoy the most simple farmers and factory workers and real genuine people. I never look down on anyone. I will spend hours talking to people most people will overlook. But what am I looking for? Genuineness. Everyone has that fire. There's a word like Roman candle. That was the word he used in that quote. It was the Roman candle. Everyone has that spark in them. Um, a lot of people, though, it never is ignited because they're on their phone. They're looking at Facebook and Twitter. They're listening to garbage Taylor Swift pop music. They're um, watching stupid things on television. And that spark within them is never ignited. Uh, it's fantastic for me when I can meet the most, backwoods, uneducated, you know, margins of society person that does have that spark and did ignite that spark. And I mean, it can be like I remember one time I was like maybe 14. Yeah, 16. 16. I didn't have a car yet. Actually didn't start driving until I was 17. But I was walking, and I walked through a black neighborhood on a poor side of town. And there was just this old lady, and she was struggling to carry her groceries, and I offered to help her. And she was suspicious and everything. I mean, she didn't even let me in the house. She brought me a glass of water to the porch. But we sat and talked, and she told me about the children she had raised, and the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren. And that was her spark. I mean, she had cared for other families and people, and um, some of them had gone on to be war heroes, prisoners. I think she was a nanny to the someone who became maybe the governor of North Carolina or something. I can't remember exactly. That was years ago, but that was her spark, and yeah, it was a great day. I mean, I will never forget that day. And a very similar lady I met up in Virginia who made the best fried chicken I've ever tasted. That was her spark. She was a tough old bird. And she had this little restaurant in a gas station with a big sign: "Pull your pants up, no cussing, turn off the phone, or you will not be served." She was a tough lady, and I walked in there one evening. It was late, and she was closing up, and I said, "Do you have a couple of chicken thighs?" And she said she always saved some back for herself because that was her favorite, and she had a couple extra. And if I wanted them, yeah, she'd sell them to me. $1.50. $1.50 for 2 chicken thighs, a white dinner roll, and some pickles. And they had beer in the cooler Schaefer beer from San Antonio, Texas, back when it was real Schaefer. Again, $1.50 for a 6-pack. I mean, the cheapest beer you've ever seen, but it was really good. Very good quality hoppy beer. It's been bought out by Anheuser-Busch now. It's not good at all. It tastes like old Milwaukee, which actually upsets my stomach. I hate that stuff. But anyway, I grabbed some Schaefer, and I had that plate, and she sat down, and we talked. We talked long after she was supposed to be closing up. And old black lady, probably 88, 89 years old, telling me all about her family and growing up there in Alta Vista, Virginia. What a great town Alta Vista was. Lane Furniture Company. They made trunks. Greatest people you ever met. Really, the folks in Alta Vista and Hurt and they're some of the best people you ever meet on the face of the earth. Especially members of the Moon family. The Moons were very prominent in that area. They were old Southern family, humble farmers, just great people. And and the Englishes, they were big. But anyway, we sat there, and from that time on, this little old lady would cook a couple of extra chicken thighs in case I came by after I got out of class at Liberty University, where they would have kicked me out if they found out I drank a beer. That was off limits. That was illegal on Liberty. But I'd stop in this little gas station, and she always, every single night, cooked a couple of extra chicken thighs in case I came in. And maybe 2-3 times a week I did. $3, less than $5. I'll put it that way, less than $5. I had a full meal, 4 beers to take home, and leftovers. And great person to talk with. You'll never find people like that anymore. That's old-fashioned quality. But anyway, let's talk about brambles. I told you the medicinal properties. I told you can eat them. You can do many things with the shoots and leaves. And like I said, they're lemony, they're refreshing. Excellent cooked with chicken, fish, quail. Oh, man, I love quail. Duck, dove, you name it. Really good. So, wow. Let's see. Do I have an actual recipe? Let's say you pan fry some chicken or fish. Probably chicken on this one. I'm going to go with some chicken. And, yeah, get the bird good and browned up. You're going to want to use your pan dripping, so go ahead and saute your bramble shoots peeled and some tender leaves in the pan drippings. Add some whatever fresh herbs you got, parsley, rosemary, thyme, etc. Salt and pepper. A little fortified wine like sherry or marsala. Perfect. A little honey. A little lemon zest. Dash of fish soy sauce or soy sauce. Or Worcestershire. Very similar flavor profile. A few mushrooms if you have them. Fantastic. I add a little hot pepper to just about everything. But with this recipe, quail would really be the go-to. It's a nice dark meat, small bird, rich flavor. Duck breast, oh man, yeah. Duck would be good. And yeah, use those bramble or blackberry shoots and leaves or some rose hips. You want that lemony, floral characteristic. And man, that's high-class eating. I mean, seriously, that's actually based on an old family recipe of mine where they would have used, I think, sherry. Let me think now. It comes from Spain. A very small side of my family actually comes from Spain. They married the Carrolls of Ireland, and that quails in rose petal sauce that I think, yeah, it was made famous by the fantastic movie Like Water for Chocolate. One of the most, Like Water for Chocolate is without a doubt one of the top 5 movies ever made. It's in there with Casablanca. What was the Orson Welles movie? Rosebud, Citizen Kane. Absolutely. Like Water for Chocolate is heartbreaking and all about food. So we gotta love that. But yeah, that recipe was popularized, I guess, somewhere around 1990 by that movie, which is more sort of an art house foreign movie. But you got to watch that movie. Yeah. You got to read the subtitles unless you speak Spanish, which I don't, at least not very well. I failed Spanish at least 3 times. No, twice, and then passed it with a D in college. So anyway. Quails with rose petal sauce is a classic recipe, and you can absolutely use the bramble, the shoots and leaves, and you're going to love it. That is like seriously high class restaurant food. Big Moroccan influence, when the Muslims invaded Spain, they really introduced that type of cooking with sweet and sour. That kind of like vinegar and honey put together. It's really good. Really good. Really very, very good. Anyway, I am so drooling right now. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually having trouble speaking because I am salivating. So, but now let's talk about the herb, which is actually a little similar. It's Carolina geranium, also known as cranesbill, wild geranium. It grows all over. It was just first identified in the Carolinas. I think maybe the botanist Andre Michaud, or it could have been Asa Gray. There was another one. His name escapes me. But yeah, they were real big in colonial times. They were associates with John. I don't remember. Audubon. They were associated with Audubon. They were associated with a lot of herbalists. The eclectic movement very much grew out of that, combining European and British herbalism with new American plants. So, but yeah, I think this was probably Michaud, and he named it Carolina, or it's Geranium carolinum because it's where he first saw it. Wild geraniums, they grow all over my yard. The name cranesbill comes from the seed pod. It has a long point, like the beak of a bird. They're beautiful, delicate little flowers. They just grow wild. I mean, they're just like in every little nook and cranny around the house where I haven't cut the grass. And actually, when you cut the grass, they come up pretty well, and in the short grass. To me, it's a wildflower. State of North Carolina considers it a weed and wants you to spray it with nasty chemicals that'll give you cancer. I think, well, I've discussed before what I think about the state of North Carolina's politicians and bureaucrats and so-called educators. Somehow our public education system every year gives a diploma to high school seniors who are functionally illiterate and unable to do basic elementary school math, and they give them a diploma, and then they go to college on basically a free ride because we have a lottery, and they're gonna be your doctor and your lawyer and your banker, and they're like so freaking ignorant you wouldn't trust them to watch your dog for 5 minutes. So when I talk about the quality of the universities and experts in the extension agency in North Carolina, you might as well say, here's what an absolute moron has to say about this subject. And they say you should spray it with Roundup, and then, of course, you get cancer and die. So I like to have little pretty pink geraniums growing in little corners of my yard. And it's edible and it's medicinal. You can absolutely, another day, we'll talk about geraniums in my spring foraging cookbook. But right now I'm on my book, The Medicinal Weeds and Grasses of the American South. So cranesbill, or wild geranium, has a much longer history in Europe. The American or Carolina geranium, European geranium, they're cousins. They're not the same species, but they're used interchangeably. Dioscorides wrote about this in ancient Greeks. He describes the leaf. You know what a geranium is. If you've ever grown geraniums, my mother's favorite flower. I mean, literally, she goes crazy over red geraniums. You know what a geranium is. The wild one is usually more of a soft pink, and it's much smaller. So I'm not going to describe a geranium to you. They'll be in the grocery stores and the garden centers for sale next month. It's like the first spring flower you can bring home in a pot. The old British herbalist called it Herb Robert. And you may remember I had this wonderful interview with Sarah of Alchemy of Apothecary last year. And I was teasing her about the way the English, she's from Cornwall, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And I was teasing her about the way the English discuss herbs. First of all, they say herb. They don't say herb. But they also give them all kinds of these little, funny little names. And what we would call geranium or cranebill, they call the herb Robert. Anyway, that's a really good episode. Be sure to listen to that one if you haven't heard it. And Sarah at Alchemia Apothecary. That's an Alchemia Apothecary. We're both big fans of the Alchemias. Anyway, I'm not even going to get into that. Bitters. We love bitter herbs. And she's a great person. And if you haven't heard that interview, You definitely need to, and definitely check out her store and sign up for her Substack newsletter. She's great. She's just a real treat, and one of the best, I think, herbal writers and educators of our generation. But Gerard in the 1500s wrote that it was good for wounds and ulcers and for the secret parts. Well, what does he mean? He means your private parts. It was good to staunch the blood and heal up bloody wounds, as he said. Also irritated skin, sensitive areas, essentially, chafing and anything like that. He listed 4 types of cranesbill, but didn't get into them in great detail. Culpeper, about 100 years later, said cranesbill or dove's foot is reckoned among a number of vulnerary plants. Well, that just means it's good for wounds. Again, it helps with, as he said, inward wounds, bruises, hemorrhages, all fluxes in general. It is mightily commended for the cure of ruptures in children. Given in powder, it will help the stone and provokes urine. Okay, so the main way we use it in America is actually for diarrhea. Anything that basically stops internal bleeding also helps dry up diarrhea. But really, really good also for kidney stones, urinary issues. Father Kunzel in the German tradition, well, he was Swiss actually, said Geranium Robertianum, or Herb Robert, so you're beginning to understand where they get that name, was, by his folk tradition, was used mostly externally, but not poisonous. But was only, he thought, acceptable to the stomach when mixed with wine. Well, you can actually make a tea out of it. But yeah, it's going to work a lot better mixed with wine because red wine, has an astringent property. He said it is a plant that draws out inflammation. It's used for eye infections, very much. That's another go-to for this, as an eye wash. Sore throat, swelling of the teeth, swelling of the limbs, etc., quickly disappear in people and cattle when green and crushed cranesbill is applied. He said the herb, even if it doesn't cure the condition, would alleviate the pain. And when dried, it must be soaked in water. So yeah, you make a tea out of the dried herb. You can make a poultice out of the fresh. And he said, really the tradition of growing geraniums in pots really does come from the Germanic countries, but I would say especially Poland. There is no Polish cottage that is complete without potted geraniums in a windowsill or a window box. But in Switzerland, he said that they were growing, cultivated geraniums in pots, and they could be used interchangeably with wild geraniums. I have actually not tried cultivated geraniums. I take him at his word, but I always use the wild because it's all over the place. It's Geranium carolinum, and I live in North Carolina in the mountains where it's literally one of the most prominent, prevalent plants there is. I have a yard so full of yarrow and geranium and self-heal. I mean, it basically crowds out the grass, and it's great. I love it. So he said cranesbill is famous for healing all types of dry or wet eczema, eruptions, rashes, and sores. The herb boiled as a warm bath. In severe cases, it is necessary to continue treatment for a whole month and to drink a spoonful of the tea, essentially, mixed with wine 6 to 8 times a day. So really good, really good for inflammatory and, wet conditions, bleeding, diarrhea, sticky, irritated skin, you name it. He said it was good for the treatment of gastric and mucus fevers. The tea, again, he says that. And he combined it with Metasweet, which has an aspirin, it has salicin, and really liked it for fevers and colds and such as that. But also as tonic for the heart. He thought it was very good for, chest pains and heart issues. He said the cranesbill is useful for treating swellings and inflammation in cattle. Thanks and praise be to the Creator. Remember, Father Kunzel was, of course, a Catholic priest. And the book I co-wrote with Jolanta Wittib, The Herbs and Weeds of Father Johann Kunzel, to my knowledge, is the only in-print English version of his classic book written in German in the 1920s. If you don't have it, it's my most expensive book because it had a lot of beautiful color photographs. I understand if you can't afford to buy the book, I couldn't. I mean, Amazon literally made me charge more for the book than I would be willing, or well, not willing. I'd love to have. I would be able to pay for it. Um, I mean, I put a strict limit on how much I pay for any book that goes on my shelf. But if you can get a copy of it, and of course the ebook is only $9.99, I was able to do cut you a deal on that. And actually, during the time of Lent, I'm giving away free ebooks. You can actually have an electronic copy of it for free. But if you want a really really good book on German folk medicine from a Christian perspective, with incredibly beautiful photographs that Jolanta took in the Alps of Austria, I highly recommend that one for your bookshelf. It's probably going to be your favorite herb book, I have to admit. And, it really, I gave my commentary, she gave hers, but all credit goes to Father Kunzel. He was a brilliant herbalist, a devout Christian, of course, and very quick-witted. That man, I mean, he had a cutting and hilarious way of writing, and really, really do like that book. I truly, it's I never buy my own books. I mean, that's off limits for me. It was Rex Stout, Bruce Stout's brother, who said, "Nothing so thoroughly corrupts a man as writing a book." I don't want to have a little altar to myself of my own books. I don't buy them. But if there was one book of mine I was going to buy, it would be that one, because it's, it's really Father Kunzel and her translation and our commentary. And it's still probably the best book I've ever been a part of. And I think I've actually written some pretty good books, but that was a real honor. And Father Kunzel's work had been essentially forgotten. I mean, I remember I read about him in Maria Trevin's books, and I tried to find a copy in English. That was impossible. Apparently one translation had been done in like the 50s and they'd gone out of print, maybe early 60s. There was no information on the internet. I mean, there were like maybe 3 websites that even had a mention of Father Johann Kunzel, one of the 2 most influential herbalists of the 20th century, literally. And so writing that book was such a treat and really such an honor. And, thanks to that effort by me and Jolanta, future generations will have access to Father Kunzel's work. And that's what I mean when I say my life, I don't want to be the period on the end of a sentence. I see myself as part of a tradition and a culture and a history that goes back thousands of years, and God willing would go forward thousands of years. So, if you feel like it, and if you're so inclined, maybe say a prayer for me sometime that I do meet the right lady eventually. Otherwise, my books will live on, so I'll be glad for that. Anyway, Miss Greaves said it was tannic and had a gallic acid, Gallic, also sugar, starch, gum, pectin, etc. Medicinal uses: styptic, which means it stops bleeding; astringent and tonic, used for piles and internal bleeding. Piles are hemorrhoids. Excellent as an injection for flooding and leukorrhea. Those are menstrual issues, heavy bleeding essentially, or leukorrhea, which is a discharge. That would be taken as a douche. And taken internally for diarrhea, children's cholera, chronic dysentery, and good as a gargle. The leaves are used and give the greatest percentage of tannin and should be collected before the plant seeds. It was very popular in early American medicine, towards an American Materia Medica, which was written in the 1700s, first herbal in America, said it was good for diarrhea, especially old or chronic diarrhea. Astringent, good for nephritis. It's kidney issues essentially. And they said it should be more studied, and this is 1700s. They said geranium or robertanium has been studied in Europe, but they thought the American was superior. And John Kehoe in the Irish tradition said it provokes urine and dissolves gravel and stone, also good for stopping all kinds of flow. I don't think I need to go on with this really. It was one of the favorite medicines of the Thomsonian condition. They said it was a pleasant, positive astringent, only moderately drying, but is persistent and effective. And that's yeah, good for the eyes as eye wash for all kinds of menstrual discharges and diarrheas and bleedings, and for nosebleeds even. Typhoid fever. They used it very much in typhoid fever. But yeah, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. We've gone on quite a while, and of course I've been going off on a lot of tangents today. They also used it a lot for bronchial congestion. That's very good. Uterine, to strengthen the uterine for uterine disorders. Um, Even polyps of the uterus, which can be very, wow. They can cause bleeding and actual death. So always good to know, in your materia medica to know about such herbs. Definitely put together with that shepherd's purse. Shepherd's purse is the best herb for such out of control bleeding. Um, yeah, it's in the American Eclectic Materia Medica. This is all in my book. I'm just kind of skimming the chapter, and they give a lot of medical studies, uses by doctors. King's Medical Dispensatory of 1898 said geranium is a powerful astringent, and they would infuse it in milk for dysentery and diarrhea and etc. Jethro Kloss in the 20s used it as a powerful astringent. It's almost the same language. Plants for Future, just I guess for modern reference, we'll look at Plants for Future. It doesn't list Carolina geranium, Geranium carolinum, but cranesbill, which is the wider category of wild geranium. The whole plant, but especially the root, is antiseptic. That's a quality we hadn't discussed before, but yes, it's a good antiseptic. Highly astringent, diuretic, styptic, and tonic. And see, in American folk medicine, and apparently German, we usually use the leaf, but they actually are saying use the root. An infusion of the whole plant or the roots alone is useful in treatment of diarrhea, especially in children and the elderly. It's fairly mild in its effect, so it's good for weak people. Dysentery, irritable bowel syndrome, that's another really good use for it. It really does. It settled down that inflammation and everything. Cholera, kidney complaints, bleeding, and a wide range of other ailments. It is often used in combination with other herbs. Externally, it is applied to purulent wounds, infected wounds. We'll just go with that. That's a word we don't use a whole lot in America. Hemorrhoids, thrush, vaginal discharge, and inflammation of the mouth. The plants are rich in tannin, the root containing 10 to 20%. The roots can be harvested in the autumn, dried and stored, etc. But, tannin, of course, my go-to for diarrhea, bleeding, things I want a tannin, astringent for, is going to be oak bark. Oak bark is much stronger in its action. If you have a child or an elderly person, if you're weakened, really worn out from bad diarrhea or bleeding, the cranesbill, the wild geranium, and shepherd's purse are both going to be much gentler options and would be much more appropriate in such a situation. So I'm going to leave it there. Y'all, you have a great week. I'm glad you enjoyed my ramblings and tangents because, boy, I've certainly done that one in this episode. You never know. I just get out of bed in a strange mood sometimes, and I can talk about anything for hours on time. So I guess it's a good thing I started writing and podcasting, and I think I owe a great debt of gratitude to many of the heroes that I mentioned today that started me down this path, and especially my mother, without the encouragement of whom, I guess I should say, I probably wouldn't have accomplished anything in life. So, y'all have a great day. Have a great week. Those wild geraniums are going to be coming in season very soon. by April 1, they're going to be all over my yard, and I live in Zone 5, very cold part of the Appalachian Mountains, probably the coldest, highest elevation place where people actually live in the Appalachian Mountains. I mean, yeah, Mount Mitchell is higher, the top of Roan Mountain, Grandfather Mountain, but people don't really live up there, you know. I'm in a little valley just under Grandfather. It's gorgeous. I love it. I'm so looking forward to getting out and fishing and foraging and everything. But do remember, with the blackberries, the black raspberries, excellent food, excellent medicine, so easy to grow, and probably just about anywhere you live, they're growing wild around you. And if there's a better fruit on earth, I don't know what it is. A fresh blackberry is sweet and sour and sometimes even a little peppery. It's, I mean, it makes better wine than grapes. It makes better jam than strawberries. It's just amazing. And they actually make a really nice hedge. They're thorny and they grow thick. You can use them to protect your property from intruders or even deer. Deer will not walk through a blackberry hedge. Now rabbits will live in it, but yeah, you can use the blackberries in many ways. Remember Louise Riotti? Check out that book by her on that, or any of her books. They're really good. Anyway, y'all, have a good one. I'll talk to you next week.